All right. Hello, welcome. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all.
Hello.
Nice,
Hello,
nice
how's it
to
going?
nice to see the ones. Hey. Nice to see the ones who were last week on Web Summit. Hello, welcome back. And yeah, in case you are available, turn on the camera because it's always nice to see the faces, not just to see the names and the projects. Hi, welcome, hello. And today we have, I think it's a really interesting approach that we have within this week. So we have all the fundamentals, like really stuff that probably you want to revise back in the learning management system in Nextford. And we are going today with more approach of like how to do the competitor analysis, how to see the competitor analysis as something more of the tools that you can use, I would say, and also artificial intelligence that we can use. And we have today here Andre from Tadam, Constructor University and Constructor Knowledge, who has the research in this area. So, I mean, in the area of artificial intelligence, and then in the area of finding the information within for your business model and for your competitor analysis and so on and so forth. I will not go into the details because I can be actually probably not correct in the details within the details, but let's put it as a very interactive session today. You can see Andre is already walking around thinking about what to tell next, how to surprise, give you the most interesting information that he has in his head. And yeah, feel free to ask questions, write in the chat, or just even without raising the hand, unmute yourself and go ahead with all the interaction possible, because we also have today lots of AI projects here and in this batch overall. So I think it could be a really interesting conversation that we can build on. With this being said, Andre, looking forward, passing the baton to you. And yeah, you can
Thank
unmute
you.
yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It's such a nice introduction. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to see you, and thank you for turning on your cameras. That's really great. I hope you can hear me well. Please confirm.
Yeah, all good, perfect.
Okay, great. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous, so I'm walking around my room. I hope that doesn't annoy you. Actually, today in the morning, I realized that the session that we prepared for you today might be not that relevant for you because most of you are already using AI in your products or you're building AI native products. We mostly brought this lecture from previous batches where we discussed how to do different parts of the competitive analysis, market analysis, competitive landscape, using AI for edtech startups who are not that aware of the power of AI or how to build agentic workflows. So today, probably some of you won't have a lot of new information, but still, if you're already familiar with some of the things that we'll discussing, please interrupt me, give additional comments, share your knowledge as well. I hope that this would be interesting discussion rather than just a talk. I wanted to start with the discussion. Actually, what is the competitive landscape? So just a simple question. When somebody comes to you and asks, do you know your competitors? Do you know your market? What would be the first thing that you will think about? What will be the first direction in which you will start thinking? You can maybe post answers in the chat or say them, mute yourself and say them. Open the chat. See it.
So the first association that you have
Yeah.
once you hear competitor analysis. I can see Mikhail and Neil with mic on,
Yeah.
so you can just jump on.
Okay. I suppose our experience. So my experience, I came from the largest healthcare company in the world, which was United Health. So when I decided to build Sprite, I kind of knew who our competitors would be. Because
Mhm.
my job was I used to acquire startups. And so we would have used, and my background as well as is intelligence, so analytics and data intelligence. So I would have used different things like Capgemini, Gartner, a number of different systems to grab intelligence, information, competitor analysis. As well as now I've been kind of using different things like Gemini, GPT,
Mhm.
and Perplexity to some regards in regards to analyzing and understanding my market. So at this stage, I think we've pretty much mapped who we would define as real competitors, and then other ones that might be kind of within our wheelhouse or within our area that we wouldn't necessarily see them as a challenge or a competitor, as well as potentially also knowing companies that we can combine with or partner with, that can leverage for how we grow and how we scale. So
Yeah, this is a very comprehensive answer, I would say. So you covered a lot of things, and yeah, that's correct. When you are speaking about the competitive landscape or market analysis, you need to think about many, many things. You need to think about users or customers. You need to think about money. You need to think about countries, niches, about competitors, who are the other players with whom you could partner, channels, pricing. So this is actually a very, very comprehensive topic. Let me also briefly go through the comments here. Maybe there is something more. XY axis, always ready to make your solution like the go-to thing. Okay, alternative solutions, right? A differentiation, strengths, weaknesses. Yeah, competitor list is changing every week. That's a great thing. Perspective, how easy can you replicate a computer feature? How solid they are? Okay, yeah. So all these questions are very valid, and I would say that each of these questions, each of these topics, is a quite time-consuming exercise. For example, if you are looking for understanding how fast you can implement features from competitors, that will take a couple of weeks until you actually understand what is the background feature, what is the feature underlying, and what is the technology, and how to implement it, how many manpower you need for that, man hours you need for that, and how much money you need to spend to recreate it, and will this feature still be actual or modern when you will recreate it. For example, when you're building an LMS, if you start with the very basic features, you will work on it for a half of the year, and then something else will be published that will kill all the old features, and you've just spent half of the year for nothing. So each of these topics is very, very good for the exploration, but obviously you cannot do it by yourself. You can do it with the ChatGPT. Well, you can gather some initial exploration. You can use deep research mode for that. You can use Gemini, you can use ChatGPT, you can use Claude, you can then combine them somehow. But in fact, what it actually does, I think most of you already know that AI simply generates the most probable token. Of course, there are so many tools that are connected to this LLM engine, and simple ChatGPT is not just an LLM engine. There are so many tools there. There is a search engine. There is a thinking mode, which is actually additional layer on top of the basic LLM. It can work with pictures. Today, it can also generate plots and do some mathematical calculations, not generate answer, but do actual calculations, generate code, run this code, and give you the output. So there are so many tools. But again, you need to, first of all, structure all the questions that you want to answer and set a specific pipeline for each of the questions. So actually, this is what I wanted to discuss with you today. And we will not focus on exact, tricks how to do competitor analysis, but I would like to show you how to automate all of these steps and which tools you could use to simply make your life easier and delegate the work which consists of collection and cleaning of information to AI and focus on more important things like reasoning and reading, going through insights and understanding, taking actions. Let me for a second move my screen.
All right. The intrigue is there. Thank you so much, actually, for all the chat answers. Really enjoyed everyone's associations.
Yeah, great. Let me share the screen. This would be a very, I'm not sure whether you can see it.
Yeah, the screen, the title slide.
Yeah, so that would be, oh, but my video is on. No, this. Just a second. Right.
The audience
Now
already loves your fonts.
Now you can see me, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So what is in the chat?
The fonts. The fonts that you
Actually,
used.
the deck was also generated with AI, so I provided information and asked to search for additional information, and I asked it to use some, predefined brand kit that I personally like. So it did it. I think today nobody creates presentations with PowerPoint. Even if you have to work on a proprietary data and you are scared that your data will leak, you can run local models and they will create it for you. Today it's possible to do almost everything with the use of AI, and that's actually the point. So I would not focus on traditional market research, the SWOT analysis, market models, how to calculate money, but we will try to take a look how this market analysis is shifting from classical one to the new AI-based one, and we'll try to understand what could be used for faster and efficient analysis. Like still abstract brain small, nice comments. Okay, so these are our objectives for today. It's already discussed. Let's skip it. And agenda slide, I personally don't like them, but AI always generates them. Let's also skip it. But the important thing is that we'd like to run a short demo at the end of the session. So let's maybe jump to the case slides, and we'll have more time for the demo. So competitive analysis, competitive intelligence is much harder today. Why? Some of you already wrote in the chat that your competitive landscape change every week. That's actually correct. We're drawing in the data 20 years ago, like 10 years ago. The problem was finding information and maybe collecting it. Today, problem is filtering information. We have so many sources of information that are updating instantly, that are updating continuously. And if you are subscribed to 20 channels and 20 mailings, you wake up and you see hundreds of messages about news in AI, about news in your field. It's almost impossible to go through everything for a human, but with the use of AI, we of course can do it. There was a research made by a team who actually researched how deep tech companies do competitive landscape, and the study said that Manuel said this is the bottleneck of modern strategy, because 80% of the time people spend of the collecting data and only 20% of time on analyzing. This is actually true, especially if we go for example, social scientists, people who are working in academia. they would like to spend a lot of time on analysis, because the real, the real meaningful information they create only when they analyze existing ones. But unfortunately, 80% of the time is spent on collecting data and cleaning it. So this is something that is going to be changed. And nowadays you can, track patents, track literature, you can track GitHub commits, you can track reviews in App Store, you can collect data from Crunchbase on an everyday basis, and that could be done automatically, which is a great thing. So you don't have to waste any time on getting information. Today, we will focus on how to analyze it and how to collect it automatically. So, work? No, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. So, maybe you remember this speech that was done at the beginning of the program by Serge Bell. He showed a few slides about how we think at Constructor AI world will look like. And we clearly see that today there is no universal tools that can solve all of the problems. And we are, like in the 17th of the AI, meaning that there is technology, but there is not enough UX interfaces. There is not enough protocols to, communicate with AI, or to give AI, different AIs to communicate with each other. And now it is very important to think about the infrastructure layer. It's very important to think about the user experience. It is very important to think how the whole pipeline will be structured. Fortunately, we are not capable to, to get any of the pieces of money that are spent for the infrastructure. Most of the money goes to NVIDIA and other chipset producers. And the electricity costs a lot. You need to build buildings. This is something that is already done, and probably startups cannot do a lot in this field. Well, if you are not a quantum computing startup that is building a new quantum technologies which will kill NVIDIA. But what we can do, we can think on the other layers, how to build protocols, how to build interfaces, how to make sure that AI connects to your proprietary data, to public data, how to make sure that AI collects all data correctly, that it filters, that it's not hallucinating. And this is something that is not yet solved, which is still very, very important and could be somehow done manually right now. And that will empower your solution 100% of the time. So starting from the bottom, we have a lot of different data sources. For competitive analysis, what do we need? We need to understand our competitors. So we need to go through their websites. We need to understand what are the products, what are the keywords that they use for marketing, what is the country where they act, what are the prices, how this information changed over the time. We can also read some news reviews. We can search through the patents or filings if the company is, for example, public, but is your competitor still. So there is so many sources that we need to identify first. So when you are starting data landscape and you identify one of the competitors, you need to understand what is the information about them. You need to answer your questions. Usually it's their LinkedIn account, the information about their findings, information about their founders is very important, information about their products, what people are saying about products. Also, it is very important to understand how many users or how many user hours they have. This information can also be found in databases, but you see, we already mentioned like 7 different things. And all of them could be collected from different places, from different databases, from different sources. This is something that AI cannot do without your help. For that, you need to build some tools. So you need to build some automation, the second step. You need to scrape websites. You need to go to the Crunchbase, using API and collect data from the Crunchbase. You need to go to the LinkedIn and scrape pages of the founders. You need to connect to the newsfeed and connect to the App Store to collect news and reviews. So all these different data sources are not yet covered with the AI. And this is something that you need to build on by yourself to make sure that your AI pipeline actually will get all the information possible to read on it, to identify what are the strengths and weaknesses of each competitor. Then, of course, comes Gen AI step. So you need to summarize information, you need to classify the information, you need to map the information with each other, you need to understand, for example, from which countries customers comes, where company has offices, you need to understand what exact niche they're playing in. So you need to map a lot of different sources and then understand what is the hypothesis or what is, I don't know, why is competitor building product A, not the product B, or why they started with the feature B, but then they decided to remove it and create a feature C. Why they are selling in summer but not selling in winter? Why are they, I don't know, why are they getting only 5 stars in App Store and only 3 stars in Android marketplace? These are questions that you need to understand and you need to precisely understand how to map information to find answers to your questions. Or you need at least to generate all these questions and ask LLM to map this information to possible answers or hypotheses. And then we come to the step 4, human in the loop. You need to validate information and you need to actually make decisions. So again, there is no universal tool that can do everything for you right now. Unfortunately, even scraping information from the internet is a very complicated task. Scraping information from LinkedIn is a complicated task. Getting information from paths in databases or from SEC, so filling information, is also complicated. You end up with a lot of PDFs, you end up with some CSV files, you end up with HTML pages, and you need to somehow understand how to work with all of that. You need to spend a lot of time on building this automation. So step 2 is actually very complicated, but once you figure out how to do it, you will be able to run competitive analysis so fast and so efficient that you will probably understand the competitors' plans better than they understand it. I wanted to discuss one core thing which you probably understand, but this confuses a lot of people that we talk to. In the past, what is actually AI? So artificial intelligence, this term is pretty old. It was created in like 80s, and well, it was redefined many different times, but something called artificial intelligence already existed for the past 10 years and 20 years. And it was machine learning, unfortunately, until, well, before ChatGPT appeared for a public audience, most of the people didn't know that machine learning actually helps to solve problems, and predictive AI already existed. It took structured input, and it was able to predict what will happen. So if you will, for example, download data from stock market and put it in the machine learning algorithms and ask, okay, can you please predict what will happen? Well, you don't actually ask this question. You rather train the algorithm to predict the next price, predict the next step. And that's something that existed for a long time. but people was not able to work on it because it required, understanding of algorithms, understanding of coding, and it required specific knowledge. Now is the age of the generative AI. So generative AI can understand actually text. So you can chat with it, you can ask natural language queries, and it will understand what you're asking and synthesize answer for you. So generative AI can read, generative AI can generate, but it is not used for a prediction. For the prediction, predictive AI is used. So you need to always think which models and which technologies you use in your pipeline. If you need to summarize something, you can use generative AI, but then you need to, if you collected a huge table with a lot of information about, for example, pricing, and you need to build a model, you need to understand how the sales performance of some specific product would be, you need to read about predictive AI, you need to understand what model can be used and use exactly this model in each case. So one of the great examples that I wanted to discuss today is example that is described in this paper, and there's a case study about the one company that actually built some chemical elements, and they've tried to understand how to use AI in their competitive landscape, and they've identified that there exists no such competitive analysis in their field yet. They've kind of created the first analysis, so it was no reports from Gartner, or it was no reports from, I know, McKinsey. There was no reports in their very precise, very small niche, and they wanted to create it by themselves, but they were not able to. Well, this company is consists mostly of scientists, and they were thinking that, okay, let's use science, let's use AI, and try to understand what are the competitors. And they actually did it, and they saw that Gen AI can replace a lot of manual efforts, and they've actually finished this competitive study in like a week instead of months. So the idea was the following: they took a look at what information exists in the web. They've understood that they will try to use only the open source data. So they've collected annual reports from 10 of their competitors. They've collected information from their web pages. They've collected information from news about them, and uploaded all those PDF in a specific RAG environment. That means that they've created a vector database where they could store. So basically, RAG, retrieval augmented generation, is the way how AI can reason and can use a longer context. You create a vector database, and then AI can read all the documents that you upload to this database and use them for the answers. And if you need to find precise answers, you can just ask a model to use only information provided in the documents from this database. So it is a very useful tool for now if you need to push your model to work only on top of your documents or on the information that you provide. So they just did 3 simple steps. They uploaded all this information, then they asked a few very specific questions. They wanted to understand how this company's products are mapped to the markets. So, for example, to the healthcare or car industry, so the chemicals used for something in the car production, or other fields. I don't remember exactly what was the fields, but they're somehow connected to chemistry. And they did this mapping. So mapping categorized the information from reports and from public sources to see actually what are the niches and to understand in which niches those competitors are playing. And then they also collected financial information from, again, open sources, from the places where information could be found. Where there is no information, unfortunately, they were not able to use it, but they just said, okay, we will try to use only public information. For most of the competitors were public companies, so it was not a big deal. So they've tried to ask LLM, okay, what my competitors are doing based on this and this and this and this and these reports and this and this and this and this and this databases, what niches they are playing in and what is their financial situation and how it correlates with the markets. They built this matrix and looked at the, places where they could play and where they would not try to play at all. What were the outputs? First, financial strategization. So what you can find in annual reports for each players is the information about their financials. But when you try to do it manually, you'll see that even the most used metrics like ARR or EBITDA are calculated differently. So people in annual reports usually try to, trick readers and write and calculate all these metrics in some strange way so that numbers look bigger, numbers look higher, and the situation looks more positive, which might be not the real case. So if you are doing analysis of the financial statements of your competitors, you need to actually understand what is the way how they calculate their metrics. And this is sometimes very tough exercise, especially when you are not a professional in this field, especially when you are not very familiar with financial KPIs and you need to spend a lot of money on, a lot of time on research how actually financial KPIs should be calculated and to standardize all these metrics and compare them to each other. So AI was able to standardize it in a very, very short time. And it actually created a chart. So if I'll share another, I'm not sure if you see that I've changed the screen. Probably I'm sharing the application on the entire screen. But it was so the plot bigger than this one with all the information from this annual reports. So AI was able to generate to standardize financial information, then generate a plot to show actually how the market is split, what are high margins players like this Linde and what are lower margin commodity players like this the bottom BASF. So again, what was done? Annual reports were uploaded to REG. Then model was asked on top of the REG to look for specific information and to standardize it and analyze it. AI provided standardized information from these papers and created a plot so people were able to instantly see what are the results. The next output, which is also pretty nice, they create the heat map. So this is a strategic heat map. Table that shows like strategic intensity. What did AI? AI read the descriptions and scored how focused each company is on specific sectors. So they had a list of sectors here on the left: materials, agriculture, consumer healthcare, as I said, car production, and many of those. And AI was able to go through the business unit descriptions, through the websites, and actually create this heat map. So here we can instantly see that, okay, Syngenta is betting everything on agriculture, while, for example, BASF are trying to play in different fields, and they are like betting medium and low stakes in different markets. So we can actually see in which niches our competitors play, and then we can try to take each sector, divide it into smaller subsectors. So, for example, materials. This is a very generic one, right? Or health or healthcare. But then you can divide it and see what is the exact distribution between subsectors. And again, could be done with the help of AI. So you need to ask AI precise questions. Please map. We'll see how actually this prompts are structured, but again, you need to understand what questions should be asked. This is very important. You cannot just ask, okay, tell me what my competitors are doing. You need to understand what are the market sectors. You need to understand where to take this information. You need to provide this information to the model and ask model precise questions. So the third output was the growth exposure. Again, this is something that is taken from the annual reports and public information. This is a very simple question. Are you positioned in a direct market or in a growing one? And well, we can see who are the headwinds and tailwinds here. And this is also very fast generated with AI from all these informations. What is okay, what is the problem to generate these things by your own? Well, if you are considering only 10 competitors, it's probably not that complicated. You can go through their annual reports and it will take some time, but you can carefully read it. You can actually understand what they are doing. You can actually understand what is their financial statement. But for the next output, if you are trying to understand what customers are saying about them, it is a complicated task. You cannot read all 10,000 reviews. You cannot track reviews on many different platforms at once. So this is something that you need to work on by yourself. And of course, this is something very, very well known by the scientists, but for some reason, for the competitive landscape, people still do not use such tools widely. So you can actually scrape information from App Store, for example. And you can use, let's say, smart bird classifier to classify the information between negative and positive reviews. And you can actually model the topics. So if you are interested why people are complaining, you can model topics and then group them and see what are the main problems of the competitor. So here is the scenario: competitor launched a new app and you have no sales data, but you have so you don't know how many copies of the app they've sold, how many customers they have, how many users they have, but you have some public data and you can actually see what people are saying about this product. Again, it cannot be done on your own, but it could be done with the use of AI. It could be done with the use of some scraping algorithms and AI on top of it. So yeah, here what we have, we see that, okay, there is a problem with the login loop. Many people say something negative about it. We see that from 10,000 reviews, it was like 450 mentions this problem. And we see that this is a critical actually problem because, okay, people cannot log in. That means that they cannot use the application at all. And all these clusters could be done with the use of AI. But again, if you will go to the ChatGPT and ask, what is the problem with application A, why they have so many bad reviews in App Store, probably the answer would not be sufficient for you. So you will need to work on it on your own. But if you know how to build a pipeline, you can use ChatGPT or OpenAI models to be more precisely to analyze it. Actually, this is an interesting thing. We did one of the research here at Constructor University. We tried to identify how universities in the world are using AI. It was done more than a year ago, so ChatGPT was not that popular as it is today. And we, first of all, we saw that there is no universal tool which will grab data from university web pages. So we create our own pipeline, and we understood that, okay, we need to read all the news published over the last couple of years with the keyword AI or artificial intelligence on the university domains. There are like 4,000 of them, 40,000 of them. And then we had to use some sentiment analysis. So we wanted to categorize perhaps information by topic, by sentiment, and also we wanted to categorize whether this is just a news, or this is a policy, or this is an article, or this research paper. So we had a few categories, and we found out that existing tools with no additional pipeline on top of it cannot solve this problem. So we actually had to build our own pipeline, and we learned that this is very helpful, not only for such big researches, but also for competitive analysis. So we then recreated this tool on our Constructor platform, and now we run it for like almost every day when we need to look for information about the competitors. Yeah, great. Irina, you wanted to say something, or
No,
you appear?
no, nothing.
Yeah, okay.
No, all good.
So moving forward, I want to say that we are now moving from librarian to strategist. We had to work as a person who searched for documents, who is copy pasting data, who is formatting slides, who is understanding sources of information, and sharing the information with other analysts or people in your company. Now our role is to design the workflow and then validate steps, validate information that we're getting at the end, and understand what is actually insights can be used for. So we are moving from this huge role of collecting and analyzing information to the role of decision maker, and this is actually very important. I'll probably skip a few slides about the prompt engineering and about the risks. It's not that interesting. I would say that this is a very generic slides. You need to work on the prompt engineering. Actually, today it's not that important, and you have a lot of courses how to do it on ChatGPT page, on Gemini page, and so on and so forth. Of course, everyone knows that hallucinations and working with context is very important. What I would actually pay attention to is that you need to care about data privacy. Sometimes you gather information with, usually it is important to gather, for example, pitch decks or internal reports from the companies. You can use it. Of course, it is always better to speak to the other companies, present that you're a customer, pretend that you want to buy something or you want to invest in them. And you can gather some internal information. But you should be very careful with that, because sometimes if final report is generated with the use of AI pipeline, and you see that this is you see in the final presentation that this data was used, and if this file will be leaked, you might get some problems. We saw such cases. Unfortunately, people are not taking care of hiding that they've used proprietary data. This is not good. So pay attention to the data. So I would suggest that we play this little game, and maybe we have some time to read the comments. So let's try to think if we have one opportunity to ask any question about your competitor, what would that be? So what question would you ask about your competitor that will help you to move forward? And the second part is, how would you think about the pipeline that will help you to find answer to this question? Let's try to think about it. Maybe we can write something in the chat or mention it.
Well, I would
You
like to
can-
know the cost structure of my competitors. I think will be available data to have.
What did you say, cost structure?
Yes, how the expenses in the money resources are allocated. Like how much for labor, how much for marketing, how much for each one of the categories.
Okay, yeah, this is actually a good idea. Okay, let's try to think on it. So we have the question, what is the cost structure for the competitor? What data can be used? How could we start searching for this information? And I see that one person raised hand, so please, and also the comment. I believe you don't have an answer to this question, but you have some additional comment.
Yeah, having a question. Well, is relating to the cost, but not to the cost of development, actually, or the cost structure, but actually the pricing model that the competition has and how they price it in different markets, right? That's something very relevant for us, especially when you try to get disruptive technology. How do you propose a new model? We have a new business model, and we're curious to see how can we relate it to the more conventional business models that others have.
Yeah, this is also this is a related question, and for which actually we could think about it. So we have some questions already. We can choose one of them and try to explore our ideas. So let's try to discuss what we have in mind and how this could be how this research could be done. People who are raising their hands, Musa and Amine, do you have additional questions or comments to these ones that I just?
Yeah, so mine is almost like an addition to the current questions, but it's in the form of what did the competitor do differently to keep their first 5 paying client, or to learn their first 5 paying client? Yeah.
Okay, and Amine?
Well, I just wanted to answer the question. One secret we'd like to know about our competitor would be, I would like to know the users, clients that tried the competitor's solution and didn't like it or left, let's say, the platform. And I would like to know the reason why they stopped using the competitor's platform. And how could I prompt an AI? Well, actually, I think this kind of reviews and opinions of the users who tried and left, I say, they are mostly available on Quora, Reddit. So I think I will ask AI referring to those. Yeah.
Yeah, great. We have another hand from I'm sorry, how do I pronounce it? Nail?
Neil?
Nail, yeah.
So basically, I'd like to understand how much it actually costs for a competitor to acquire and engage in our areas patients at scale.
Yeah, so
really understanding the economics of the engagement, how much does it cost them to keep patients in, basically to keep patients within engagement rates and responding and key appointment data and stuff like that.
Great. So I know we have already many questions. Let's choose one of them and let's discuss how that could be solved. So we had a question about the costs, about the reasons why people do not use product. We had a question, what do competitors do to keep their first paid clients? Your question, Neil, sorry. And Well, let's choose one of them. I know. Let's choose randomly. Let's try to think about the question about the pricing. So, what is the pricing model? What is the business model? How competitors are setting their pricing in different countries, in different markets? Let's try to think together about this question. What is the pipeline? What information could be collected, and how this information could be collected, and how AI could be prompted to solve this task? Please think about it for a few minutes and write your answers in the chat or say them. Important between new users. This. Yeah, so I suggest we just think about it for a couple of minutes and then discuss as what in mind. I personally said that thinking about pricing is a complicated task when you are trying to understand what is the what pricing you should set for your product. You of course need to think about the total cost of ownership. So, for example, if you're selling an LMS, you need to understand what are the real costs. So people have to buy, I don't know, a server or cloud hosting where they will actually host this LMS. People need to migrate content from their existing or from the old LMS to the new one. People need to migrate users. People need to. So there are a lot of things, and you need to understand what is the real cost of it, right? Because otherwise you cannot set any pricing. But total cost of ownership is not sufficient for making a decision. You cannot understand the pricing models if you don't know how you will sell your product in different countries. So you need to understand what are the channels. For that, you can actually try to identify what are the competitor channels. Do they use partners? Do they use distributors? Do they use, I don't know, maybe they do only direct sales in specific countries and they do partner sales in other countries. Why is it important? Because you have, for example, if you have two-tier model, you have gross margin on each step. So you need to actually understand what money will go to you after all these partners and distributors step. So this question is quite good. You can spend a lot of time on it, but how you will actually prompt the model, what data could you use, and how you will approach all these steps. I think Amine and Musa have answers, so maybe Amine can start and discuss it a bit. But you're muted.
So can we start with Musa because I forgot to lower my hands. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. Musa, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for me, it was almost like an additional follow-up question, but also a point for discussion within a group. So when you were talking about pricing, one of the questions that my team and I have been trying to answer is when do we kick off pricing on the platform, and our options are, have we provided more values to the users that if we, activate the pricing model, they'll be able to pay, or, if we activate the pricing model, would they leave the platform? That kind of question. So I was also wondering, how the team in here has been handling that pricing model in addition to us just answering when to keep the first. It's almost like when do you keep the first few customers, but then when do you sort of activate the pricing model based on that kind of scenario, right? So it's a bit of a interconnected questions there.
Yeah, great. So we also have one. Thank you for your answer. We also have some answers in the chat. So this is a long prompt. Let's understand it Read competitors, focus on their pricing model and revenue streams, subscription plans, public data from announcement, official sources, blah, blah, blah. Major Reddit, okay. Why should they choose the pricing model they do? How does it correlate to the target audience and brand narrative? How does it correlate to the aesthetic, role, vibe, and tone? Logos and big company, does this play a role in their pricing? Providers they use? I think, yeah, questions are good. I believe that if you'll ask this exact questions to the ChatGPT right now about, for example, okay, we started the discussion LMS. If you ask all these questions about the Canvas or I don't know, Blackboard or Moodle, what are the key LMSs on the market right now? You won't find information about many of those questions. And unfortunately, ChatGPT wasn't able to generate you a comprehensive answer. So you need to understand what additional data could be asked and what additional sources of information could be prompted and could be added to this. What they build, what are building after requested. Okay. There is a good answer from Nail. The footprint is tiny and slow to grow. Their economics are probably painful. Talk quietly to clinics and still here. Okay. How many persons they have and how heavy their onboarding is, because client means in cost. This is a good thing. Buttons and churn. For site. Ideal. Yeah. This is a great answer. Managed to invest in them and whether big funds have already passed. Companies. Yeah, okay. So this is a good answer. So you see that there are many topics covered in this answer, and actually, if you try to separate this message into few categories, and for each category you will understand, or you will understand jointly with AI and provide information that could be used for this analysis, that could be done. Like if you understand how to see, for example, integrations, how to understand their onboarding, how to understand their people whom they hire, and how to understand their funding grounds, you can understand a lot about them. But you see, all those questions are essential to answer before you make any decision about one company. And for one company, it's already a huge work. For 10 companies, for 100 companies, if you are playing in some wide niche, will be almost impossible. So, yeah, the very, very important question is how you work with such pipelines. So, as a short answer to how to start thinking about the looking for answers is first, you need to define what you need to know, and you need to define like small, short categories or even questions, exact questions, not a huge prompt, but small questions. So like how many integrations they have, how many partners they have, what are their pricing, is their pricing different in different countries? You need to define all these questions, and then you need to understand sources of information. Is there news or reports or patents or literature or maybe reviews in somewhere? Then, yeah, the good thing would be pick one of the competitors and write a pipeline with the prompts. So use this information for this, use this information for this, please analyze it, give me the answer. And also please provide reasoning, please provide all the steps that you've done, commit, I will validate it. And then accurately go through the list of the answers, accurately go through the data and see how model did it for one competitor. If the pipeline is good, you can move to other competitors. But what do we mean by the pipeline? And here is the small question, and maybe both switching to the word demo. Have you already used any automation tools? So I know that you guys who are working on AI solutions, some of you, and obviously everyone used ChatGPT, everyone used Gemini, Claude, and other AI models. Maybe some of you already used agentic browsers. So I think it's called Comet by Perplexity or Atlas by ChatGPT. So there are already browsers and can actually communicate with the page using agents. So you just prompt what you need to do and everything will happen inside your browser. But there are some platforms where you can actually automate all the processes that we covered today. And I want to know whether you have used already some of the tools for the automation. Please write the name of the tool in the chat, or if you have not used any, please write no. Okay, we see some technical guys who already used LangChain. Any other? So have you used any? Okay, and a 10, Kestra, Zenmi, Zenl. Any other? Any site? I haven't heard about that. This is probably okay. Yeah, I heard about it. Good resource. DuckDuckGo search tool, great. Yeah. Yeah, Andrei, thank you for this link. This is useful. So I actually see that you guys are familiar with automation tools, and there is plenty of them. So I will share the presentation with some, comparison between automation tools, and I wanted to show you how to work with N8N for a short task, for prompting AI to search information about the CEO, not the CEO, but SEO for your competitors. But I'm not sure that would be interesting for you because most of you already used something. So for the current batch, this information is probably not new. So please write in the chat any additional tools that you've used, and maybe we'll just share with each other places where to look at the pipelines, where to look at the different APIs, and where to look at the collections of the tools to use for the competitor analysis and market landscape. And I will maybe still open the N8N. Zapier, Make, and then Airflow. Okay, yeah, we see that people are using it a lot. Information from scratch, both the price clients, IPs, parsers, plus LM, plus all performance, plus AG, plus coverage rooms. Okay, yeah, that's great. That's great, Ross. So your team is probably a very technical team. Great. Checking for now. So I believe that we can maybe up here and maybe spend another 20 minutes for a discussion. Maybe we can discuss some questions or think together about additional tools. I see that most of you already use N10, and it's not worth it to show you how to build even a simple pipeline for the analysis of the keywords and the search engine optimization. So maybe we can just discuss additional questions or finish a bit earlier today.
Let's probably do that as a discussion. So if anyone has any personal cases or just something to dive deeper into, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask the question. Or maybe since you are all also AI, rather AI savvy here, then you can go even into some details regarding the approaches as well.
What and Mike? Yeah, people are saying that they are overloaded because you said that or use a Python library, but be part of the user. Well, that's true at some point, but most of the people who are doing research, a bit of landscape or research for their, I don't know, for let's say for their job in academia, it's not that easy. There are so many people, for example, from social science who are not, capable on building pipelines using Python. People need some tool that will allow them to, push the button and scrape all the data from source that they provided. Unfortunately, such universal tools do not exist. But tools like N10 or Make, they allow you to build such pipelines with almost no coding. You need to just understand how to, work with the block scheme. And that's why such tools are becoming popular, and even OpenAI created their own agentic workflow builder. I think it's only available in US right now, or maybe it's already available for other countries. And that's actually great. Fortunately, they don't have many integrations. So, for example, in N10, you have hundreds or even thousands of different connectors. You can combine everything together. I will not exist without Gemini API in 2 years. Yeah, that's an interesting opinion. So we had one person who raised a hand.
Yes, it was me. Sorry. Can you give us an example, like a practical example on how you will organize your tech stack? For instance, in using OpenAI, we have tasks and we have projects and we have GPTs. And then I was trying to automate my Gmail inbox and trying to connect it to the cloud functions, but then I realized maybe it was easier with Zapier or doing it with another tool. And right now I'm using VS Code and Cloud for anything related to code. But I'm just struggling to determine which could be the right flow of the right tech stack in order to be the most productive as possible. So that will be my question.
So as you can see in the chat, there are so many approaches. People are playing with it in many different ways. So some of us are able to, create our own agentic pipelines with the Python. Some of us are not able to do it. Currently, we are using N10 and Claude. We are also using Obsidian, and Obsidian as a knowledge base. Of for our UX research and for our competitor research. So basically what we do is we have some scrapers that can scrape LinkedIn Crunchbase, that can scrape websites of the companies. We have, of course, integrated search engines that can find our competitors and links that will scrape them. We use different models. We use, this small self-hosted models, which are trained on the data that we have to make sure that they can classify the information that is found the right way. As I mentioned, we had this example of the university's websites. We actually use it to better understand what are the most common use cases universities use AI for right now in their educational and scientific environments. So, as I said, as a MVP, we always build everything in N8N for now. So we just have different scrapers that we run on our own server, and we connect them with each other using N8N. Then we store all the information as a .md files in Obsidian, which is a great tool to build a knowledge base that will build a nice looking graph for you, and you will see some not obvious relations between your nodes and between your pieces of knowledge. And yeah, we use pre-trained models to better classify and understand information. Hope that answers your questions.
Yes, thank you. Just one more, because OpenAI just launched this new interface that's pretty much a competitor to N8N, but not as complete as N8N, of course. But what do you think on that? Have you tried it?
Yeah, we have tried it. There is, as I said previously, there is much less connectors, but they will probably have much more in this public version. So, I mean, in the future, that will probably be a very, very comprehensive tool. But I think that right after the OpenAI published this new tool, and it then added the new way to create workflows. So they've added this AI feature that generates a workflow for you. So we will see how this market is, changing. This is a very new field. It's like became popular only in 2025. I know that many of you will say that the agentic workflows are not new, and people who were able to, technical people were able to create such agentic workflows even in the past, but in the wide usage, it became popular only like this year, and we'll see how it changed. I think that there is about 25 different tool products with their features, which allow you to build agentic pipelines. I think CB Insights recently published a good overview of all of them. We'll see how it will change. But non-technical people are using either Make or N8N currently. It's very, very common tools. And as somebody said in the chat, it is possible to host it on your own server, so data will stay on your server, and it is free, and you can actually build everything on your proprietary data. So there will be no leaks if you also host a model on your server. You can not worry about the information that you are storing and that you are using in this pipeline. So this is great for people who are not that technically educated and who would like to run some AI automations on top of their applications, or for their own research purpose, or for their own automation.
Not sure we have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for hosting this talk. I wonder, maybe based on your experience, what might be like top 2-3 criteria you would look for in your competitors doing the competitive analysis? if you are like pre-revenue
Yeah.
company that's trying to find their niche. Because based on the question I posted in the chat earlier, I think that I'll be really fighting with myself whether decide to follow my initial roadmap or lean to where my like first beta users would lean and like follow some particular features, like spend some time in some particular section in the app.
Yeah.
So in these kind of fields, so what I thought would be really interesting to hear.
Well, let me think a second. So
yeah, sure.
So the first key question was, what are the
top
key
2 to 3
things to look
criteria
at?
to look for.
Yeah, to look for the competitors. Well, I would say that what most of the people don't do or do not understand, that you need to pay attention on indirect competitors. This is a very important thing. This is what people usually forget about it. So, when you think about, when you are creating glasses and you think about competitors, you can look at, I don't know, Ray-Ban or Oakley, but one of the competitors would be laser aberration to, make your vision clear so that you don't need any glasses. The indirect competitors are very important. And now, especially now, if we're considering AI applications and all these automations and software as a service companies, sometimes people misunderstand what is the actual pain of the customers or users, and they forget about the indirect competitors at all. So I would try to focus on what is the pain of the customer and what are possible solutions that are not covered by any of your competitors that you are seeing, you are reviewing. So if you looked at 10 or 100 competitors and you see that they are doing this, and what they are doing is somehow clustered, you need to think, is there anything else that could be done? Is there anything else that also approaches the same pain or the same problem? And the second thing I would focus on is the usage, and usage in terms of amount of users and amount of hours they spend in the product. So it's not that important if you have like 1 million users if they spend only like 5 minutes in your product. But it's very, well, depending on, of course, but it's very important that you have all the users who are staying with your product and who are using it actively. So you need to have a usage. Usage is more important than just the amount of users. And this is something that's not that easy to evaluate. And for that, you need actually a lot of data sources combined together and try to understand how people use it, what people are used for, and what is the outcome, for example, how you can measure the amount of time people spend in the application or using the product. So I would analyze the usage because, there is a book. What is the name of the book? Let me open it. Sorry, I forgot. Crossing the Chasm, right. This is a very old book, Crossing the Chasm. But the idea about this huge chasm between early adopters and the second category. So there are people who are early adopters who are starting to use your product at the very beginning, and you are trying to work with them, you are solving their pains, you are making attention to their comments. But the early adoption is only like smallest piece of the people who will be using your software or your product. To cross the chasm between early adopters and wider audience, you need to work hard. And usage is very important. You need to understand how many people spend time in their product, in competitor's product, and how much time they really spend in products. So you will see whether the competitor is playing with only early adopters, or they already have some people who are most from the wider audience. I forgot the name. I think if you will Google this book, Crossing the Chasm, there is a categorization of these 4 types of the client or user. I don't remember how the second part is called.
Okay, no, I think that's pretty much a good thread to to the answer I'm looking for. Yeah, and I think that we share the opinion here is that like 100 of daily active users is better than 1,000 on the waiting list. So yeah, we'll know
yeah,
that.
having waiting list is a good idea for the very beginning to understand. Is there anyone who'd like to use it? But yeah, of course. I know that you have access to the part about the competitive landscape in LMS. There are a lot of things written there about which questions should be asked, and what are the techniques to answer those questions. So as the homework, I would suggest you to look at this part in the LMS, and at the same time, try to think how you would implement it as an agentic workflow somewhere, how you would prompt models, how you would add data sources and which data sources, rather than trying to answer those questions by yourself. So try to approach this task using these 4 steps: identify question, identify sources, identify how to prompt models correctly, and then validate data. So try to try to go through this part of the course in the LMS with thinking about how you would implement it with the use of AI. Okay, any other questions?
Well, I see that everyone is getting their thoughts on, and the chat was really active today. So
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for the questions and comments and your cases, how it was going. Actually, I would take this time to kind of maybe corner a little bit Andre with the idea that we got in one of the feedback forms from the recent session, is that if Andre can join for a week, I mean, yeah, maybe we will get it as a week, because this week is kind of getting to an end, but still, to join the WhatsApp chat of the founders. And if the founders have any questions, then Andre can answer. What would you say, Andre, in this case? Just for a week.
Of course. Yeah, of course. I'm
So we
open to.
can try,
I'm
because
very sorry,
I really
guys.
like the idea.
The talk that you had today was prepared mostly for non-technical startups, and I believe that most of you are already familiar with the tools. So we need to restructure it, and we need to
Well, it's
make
okay.
it
I think that it's good
more
sometimes
appropriate
to
for a
revise.
technical audience. Yeah, and I believe that would be very helpful if you go through the course on the LMS with this agentic mindset, with the automation mindset, and to think how to implement all these AI features to solve these tasks, to solve this
Perfect.
no
So
competitive landscape problems.
So then everyone can have also the access to Andre's mind for a week in WhatsApp. So I will then speak on the details more. And also, it's always good to revise whatever you have, and the approaches sometimes, especially with also prepared minds. So I wouldn't say that that it was a useless exercise today. And with this being said, I think that we can all wrap it all up. And thank you so much, Andre, for sharing your thoughts and the slides. And thank you everyone for the engagement. I think it was productive more than an hour. With this being said, have a really nice evening ahead. And
Thank you.
see you all around. Yeah, with this, week 2 is coming to a really productive result, I would say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.